Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings with me, Michael Jex, and today we're going back to inks. Last week I showed you a bunch of inks that have been sent to me by Bart. Thank you very much, Bart. One of them was Coraline d'Egypte, and I thought, ooh, that's an interesting idea because that's a shimmering ink, one of the special Herbin inks, and I thought, well, I could possibly compare it with Brandy Dazzle from Diamine. And that means getting out the old TWSBI pen again, the TWSBI Go, so I can assess these two inks and my booklet of inks, so I can show what they look like compared to others. And, because it's Christmas coming up soon, but if you're interested in inks, have a look at the Cult Pens website because you can get a discount on a number of different inks there. So it seems to occur to me that maybe doing an ink review just now was a good time to do it. So here we go. Over the years, I have quite enjoyed trying different exciting shimmering inks like Magical Forest and Brandy Dazzle and Red Luster. All of them gave really nice, interesting results, but it's noticeable with all of them, as you can tell, that they do separate out when they haven't been used for a while. And you have to give them a good shake to make sure that all of that shimmering loveliness gets spread through the ink quite well. Now that, of course, is not a problem because you're going to want to use these inks when you've got them, when it's Christmas or something similar. But it always struck me that the last thing I would want to do would be to load an ink like that with such a thick sediment into a decent pen. Now, this does have the same impact. As you can see, it has got this lovely sort of sediment, but it seems to spread through the ink more happily. It seems not to be quite so thick and heavy as the Diamine inks are. That could be a certain amount of wishful thinking on my part, I don't know, but I've always been nervous about putting these Diamine inks into a pen and leaving it in there for too long, because I just feel that particles that size or that in that quantity are likely to give problems. I have never heard of such problems with the Herbin types of ink though. These are specials. They are the 1798 versions of ink, which is just a particular brand that Herbin have decided to use. But I find these shimmering inks really fascinating. So what I thought I would do, because we all know different types of paper give different results. So I've got here Tomo River, I've got some particularly thick William Hanna paper, and I've got some Rhodia. And I thought it might just be interesting to try all three with this rather lovely looking ink. I should just say this ink came from the delightful Bart, along with all the pencils I was talking about briefly last week. And I am enormously grateful to the chap for sending me so many different inks and pencils. So let's just get this TWSBI going. Doesn't want to work particularly just now. But let's just see if we can suck some ink in. Oh yeah, that's a fairly good quantity there. I don't want to waste this ink, it's too appealing to waste. Lid on the bottle for safety purposes. Put the bottom on the pen and give it a bit of a clean while I do so. Right, clean pen. Now, I haven't used this pen in a while, so it may well decide that it doesn't want to play ball. Now, of course, one thing I should say is that it may not show up as having so many particles as the Diamine trio, simply because the bottle might not have been shaken up before Bart sent it to me. So there could have been fewer particles in this sample bottle than you'd normally expect to get in a full bottle. Hadn't thought of that. There's an interesting concept. And of course this is an interesting time of year for shimmering inks, because we're in the run-up to Christmas. I hesitate to mention the fact, but Christmas is coming, folks. I can tell that from the temperature in this house, which is currently freezing. So let's just have a quick look at these. First of all, we'll go for the one that should have dried. So let's just see what this looks like. Now I'm getting a fairly good glisten of little particles in there wherever the characters are particularly dark. The F here, in the S, in the H, in the downstrokes, I can see lots of little sparkles. So it works particularly well on William Hanna paper. Looking at the Rhodia, yep, that's working very well there as well. I can see it really all over the quick test and airbands. It's definitely much more noticeable when you've got, I'm just going to turn on a separate set of lights here to see if that gives me a slightly better effect. And it doesn't at all. That's hopeless. Right, let's put this light back on. Yes, it's definitely clearer, I think, on the heavier strokes. Just disappeared then to get my spectacles, because I'm finding it difficult to see what's going on here. Right, okay, so those two are good. And then here, I'm trying to do this through the camera, and it is particularly difficult to see anything at all on a small camera screen like this. But I would just say that it doesn't show up quite so well on this Tomo River, but that could just be my eyesight, the lighting, and various other things. It certainly shows up very well on the brilliant white of the Rhodia, and it shows up very nicely on this William Hanna paper. In fact, it shows up superbly. I can see lots of sparkles in that. Okay, as a comparison then, I'm now going to open the Brandy Dazzle and try some of that in my TWSBI Go. I should just say, if you haven't got a TWSBI Go and you want to test inks, you really need to get a TWSBI Go, because it makes life so much easier. There you go, that's just filled the pen. Just push down the plunger, release it, and the pen's full. It's such a simple but delightful mechanism. Now, this Diamine Brandy Dazzle is brilliant. I've literally just shaken the bottle, and yet you can see it's already sedimented out. It's an astonishing, I guess, amount of metallic, or whatever they are, particles in there for it to work like this. But let's just see how it goes. Yes, I thought this would be a nearer comparison rather than using the red luster, and it's an orangey colour, not quite as orange as the J. Herbin, but let's just see how it goes. Right, so in terms of the two here on William Hanna paper, I think it is very clear to me, whether it is to you or not, but the Brandy Dazzle has many more sparkles. It really does seem to be smothered in sparkles. There are still a lot of good sparkles on the J. Herbin, but they are fewer. With the Brandy Dazzle, even on the very lighter sections, I can still get little glints and gleams. On the areas where the ink is that bit thicker, it looks like just someone sparkled glitter powder all over them and glue them to the spot. On the Tomo River paper, looking here, again, I can see sparkling quite nicely in the J. Herbin, but the sparkling, I think, is much more glittery, much more effective on the Diamine ink, and likewise here. You really do get your glitter money's worth when you look at the Diamine version. However, that is not the only thing that matters, is it? What you're really looking for is a good balance between the amount of glitter you've got on the page and the colour itself. Now, I like Diamine's Brandy Dazzle. It is the sort of ink that I will use on Christmas cards quite happily, which also the Red Luster and the Magical Forest, they're both really good Christmassy types of colour too, but just trying to catch there, the which should shimmer is shining extraordinarily well to me. I definitely like the colour of the Brandy Dazzle, but I also rather like the additional orangey nature that you get with the J. Herbin, the Coralline d'Egypte. Is that how you pronounce it? Coralline d'Egypte? I think it might be, I'm not sure. It's a very long time since I learned French, and I haven't been able to afford to go to France for many years. It's the trouble of being an author. But these two inks are really very appealing. They're very attractive. I must admit, I think, for signing Christmas cards and the like, I think Diamine would win. But for general use, I think the J. Herbin Coralline d'Egypte may have less in the way of particles to shimmer and shine, but it's just such a nice colour, and it does have that little subtle shimmer to it, which makes it very appealing. I could use that in a lot of letters. That's rather nice. In addition, because it has got so many fewer particles, now while I've been talking, this bottle has just been sitting there, so let's just turn it upside down. You can see the thick layer of sediment there. Do I want to put something with that many particles into a good pen. No, I do not. This has been sitting there, this has the particles, but you can see how quickly they move. I don't know if that's because the particles are smaller or if it's some other function of the ink itself. I'd be very interested to hear your views on this. You can stick them in the comments down the bottom. So that was quite an interesting one, wasn't it? I still find it hard. The shimmering, the depth of shimmering, the depth of the particles on the Diamine is significantly stronger. The two side by side mean that the Herbin almost could be just a flat orange ink with no shimmer in it at all. And then you suddenly get these little flakes catching your eye. So it's much more subtle. It's the sort of an ink I could use definitely for writing letters. But possibly I will stick to the Brandy Dazzle for writing Christmas cards and Christmas letters. There you go. So that was an interesting little diversion for me. Hopefully it was for you as well. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope that was interesting. If you've got any comments, put them down the bottom. I'll be interested in your thoughts on the relative merits of different shimmering inks, whether they're Diamines, whether the Diamines are best, whether the different Herbin, or maybe you've got a different favourite. I'll be very interested to hear what you think. If you want to help support the channel, you can go to the bottom where there's a link to my Patreon page. That's what I was trying to say. If you would like to, you can go there and subscribe, and that way you're helping directly financially keep this lot going. Otherwise, if you've got any comments, put them down the bottom. If you'd like to hit the share button, the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you'd notify when another video comes out. And apart from that, I'm going to go now and play with pens and inks because I haven't had enough of that yet. Thanks a lot for watching. Speak to you soon. Take care.